This week on East Texas Politics, about 100 days out from the midterm election, we're talking with Smith County's Republican and Democratic Party chairs.
We as Republicans need to make sure that we elect Ken Paxton as senator.
We are outvoting Republicans. They're shaking in their boots a little bit, and they should be.
Ahead, what they say are their party's biggest strengths, weaknesses, and how they plan to win your vote. And hello there. Welcome to another edition of East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. My first guest this week is Smith County Republican Party Chair David Stein. David, thanks for being here.
Wonderful to be here again. Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Yes,
We're
sir.
just about 100 days away from the midterm election, less than 100 days away from the start of early voting. When it comes to Republicans in Texas, what is the biggest hurdle this election?
People thinking that everything is okay. Apathy has been the number one problem for so many years. So if you look at numbers, 2/3 of the public vote in a presidential election, less than 50% vote in a gubernatorial election.
What is the biggest opportunity for Republicans in Texas this time around?
Well, we've got some good things going, and we need to make sure that those things stay. We want to see the economy continue to hum along as it is, so we don't want things restrictive in that particular area. We want to increase educational opportunities. So many people we know, even here in Tyler, that 80% of the people who go to school in not just Tyler but in all of Smith County, 80% of those people stay here for their lives. And so we need to make sure that they're properly educated, they're properly trained for jobs. So it's the kitchen table issues. People are distracted by so many different, daylight savings time. People are losing their minds over daylight savings time. That's not a hill that I'm going to die on. So I'm concerned about kitchen table issues. Do we have job opportunities? How's the economy doing? Right now it's struggling. Gas prices are still up. We need to get those down. So things like that that are affecting everyday Smith County families are what we need to be focusing on.
And going beyond the base, what does the party have to do to win over those undecided voters and the independents?
Well, the short answer is values. If you look at the values of a party, it's like a church. A church is made up of imperfect people. So is a party. I may have a vote that I might agree with or disagree with, but I'm not going to toss out a candidate because of one or two votes that they may have taken that aren't the way that I would go for that. When you're making a decision on candidates, and I've heard the stories, I've heard a lot of the issues that are out there, when you look at a Republican candidate, a flawed Republican candidate against a flawed Democrat candidate, for me, I'm still going to vote for that flawed Republican candidate. I'm not going to let a few items change my vote for that, because it really is about the values.
Ahead of the midterms, there's going to be a national midterm convention being held not far from here in Dallas. President Trump will be among the speakers for that. What do you make of that happening in Texas before the election?
So, well, it's interesting. And first off, so they've stopped calling it a convention, because it really, a convention is where you are going to do the party business. Mm-hmm. So when we first started looking at it, it looked like it was going to be one particular way. It's a fundraiser. It's a big, huge, enormous fundraiser and rally. President Trump is coming here to Texas. I'm sure there are a number of reasons. Texas is the state that everybody wants. There's 40 electoral votes that are here, and he wants to make sure that we keep Texas solid. We as Republicans need to make sure that we elect Ken Paxton as senator. Everything aside, if Ken Paxton loses to James Tallarico and we lose the balance of power in the Senate, all the progress that President Trump has made, all the progress that our country has made, immediately reverse back to Biden-era policies, and we're back into impeachment on every single headlines. And everybody knows that that's going to happen.
And you mentioned the marquee matchup. It's the one that's been getting most of the attention, that between Ken Paxton and James Tallarico. Is Paxton a liability for your party this fall?
It depends who you talk to. And I'm not going to be disingenuous and say that everybody's fine. There's a lot of people that aren't fine. But my message to them is, what is the alternative? And the alternative would not be a good thing for anybody in Republican politics. We have liability. Listen, Governor Abbott's not a shoo-in. We look at him, and he's long-serving, and he's been a great governor. But with the way that the votes have gone, when you go back to the Tarrant County election, the special election, where a solid Republican seat flipped to a Democrat. Now, that seat's up again, but still, that happened. When you look at the fact that Democrats outvoted Republicans in the primary, there are a lot of signs that make me want to say to people, we've got to wake up. We've got to make sure that our head is in the game. There is no excuse to stay home and not vote.
Unity drives victory. That was the messaging at the party convention not that long ago. Has the Republican Party healed from that bruising primary? Is the party unified heading into the midterm? More
than it has been. So we've got more room to go. There are people that are never going to give it up. I just watch social media. It really is insane, some of the commentary that's going on out there. But more than not, people are understanding. And look, it's life. Sometimes life gives us two choices that we're not fond of because our first choice is no longer available. The house you wanted got sold, and there's two other houses that work, but it's not that house. But it's not available to you. So you make the best choice of what you have at that particular time.
Locally, what are you doing to energize Republicans here as the county chair?
So we've started the planning there. The precinct chairs are getting activated. Governor Abbott has invested a lot of money into an app, and that app is going to be very helpful. It's called the Abbott Impact app. It is open to any citizen who wants to use, any Republican citizen who wants to use it, and it allows you to keep track of your contacts. One of the things that people do during elections from a candidate standpoint is you keep track of who voted. And so logistically what happens is you get a printout from the elections office of who voted. You match that up against the voter list and you know who's left. That's time consuming. This app does that automatically. So it's very easy to keep track of who has voted, and you can call your friends up. So if I look and let's say Blake Collin is one of my friends, and I say, Blake, you know, it's 1 week into early voting. I notice you haven't voted yet. We really need you. We're really counting on you. Please make sure you get to the polls. So it's a very, very helpful tool. There's going to be a lot of rallies. I'm seeing them all over the state. We're going to have some here. We're going to have local candidates get out into various areas where the community can come in and meet who's going to be on the ballot from the local standpoint.
I want to go back to that marquee matchup between Ken Paxton and James Tallarico. There's been some name calling in this race. Some of the names here: Low T Tallarico, Talafrico, Tofu Tallarico. I'm quoting all of this. It can sound like middle school at times. What do you think of all this? Is it the better strategy to focus on policy and avoid the character attacks, or is that what it takes to win an election these days?
I thought you were going to ask me which was my favorite of those names.
No, that's not the question.
So, you know, there's an interesting thing about politics. There's a book that was written called The Power of Bad. And the problem is that type of campaigning and negativity works. And until it stops working, campaigns are going to continue to do that. It's happening the other way as well. Tallarico is launching ads, you know, corrupt Ken, and they're going to go into his personal life and things like that. So I don't prefer it. I don't take part in it. It's not my taste, but the reality is unfortunately that it works. This campaign is going to get nasty. If you thought the Cornyn versus Paxton campaign was rough, this one is going to be the ugly one.
And as we wrap up here, David, give us the 30-second pitch. Why should East Texans vote Republican this fall?
We have a responsibility. This country is fantastic. When you look at all the people that have come here internationally for the World Cup and the things that they're saying about what we have, we're so fortunate to have this country. We're so fortunate to have this state. But with that comes responsibility, and that is you have to make your voice heard in an election. Don't let your voice go unheard and let somebody else speak for you.
All right, Smith County GOP Chairman David Stein, thank you for being
Pleasure.
here. Still to come, the new chair of the Smith County Democratic Party.
We have had Republican control in our government here in Texas for 30 years. What do we have to lose to try something else?
We'll talk with Kristen Hardin-Sigler next on East Texas Politics.
What if you didn't just check the weather, but understood it? Why storms build, where fronts come from, the story behind it all. Because weather isn't just in your forecast, it's everywhere. First Alert Weather Extra. It's just more.
And welcome back to East Texas Politics on East Texas Now. Joining me now is the Smith County Democratic Party chair, the new chair, Kristen Hardin-Sigler. Kristen, thanks for being here.
Thank you for having me today, Blake.
Appreciate it. Want to begin with the fact that a Democrat has not won statewide office in the state of Texas for more than 30 years,
Right.
going back to 1994. How do you change that in this election?
Well, I think a good thing is I wasn't born yet. So, we have nothing to lose at this point, and that's what I'm so excited about. We have all the groundwork to cover, all the work to do. I have great leaders behind me, but I'm very excited for what's to come.
Now, what's the party's biggest advantage in this election when we talk about Democrats in Texas?
Yeah, so I think the biggest advantage right now is that the status quo isn't working for people who have benefited from the status quo all of this time. If you are not a billionaire and the ultra wealthy, you don't benefit from the Republican administration. Republicans have been in charge in Texas for 30 years. So it's time for a change. It's time for a change of scenery. It's time for new faces. And that includes on the Democratic side, which is why I was so excited to get elected this year.
Now, what's the biggest challenge or disadvantage for Democrats, you think, heading into the midterms?
Yeah, I think it's the lack of infrastructure that our local party specifically has. We have an excellent state party chair now. Kendall Scudder has stepped up. He has taken the reins. A fellow millennial, I'm very proud to be friends with Kendall, to know Kendall personally.
And he's from East Texas.
And he is from East Texas, yes. So very familiar with our area, won us by a landslide. But Kendall has brought energy and vision that the Democratic Party here has not seen before. And so I'm so proud of him. I'm so proud to be able to serve alongside him and with him to really make up the groundwork that we need to cover over the next midterm section.
And Kristen, you are about a month into being the new Smith County Democratic Party chair. What's your goal in this position? What do you want to do differently, if anything, than previous party leadership?
Yeah, I want to try new things. I have a background in research and data and statistics, so I want to take all of that knowledge and apply it in a way it hasn't been applied in Smith County or in politics before. It's not that I'm trying to throw out the baby with the bathwater. I'm trying to give the baby some new clothes, right? And make sure we have shoes that fit so that we can thrive rather than just survive.
And what is the strategy for Democrats to win over those undecided voters, the independents, that sought-after group of voters that just haven't made up their mind yet?
Well, specifically here in Smith County, we're focusing in our own backyard. While the national stage does impact us, statewide politics do impact us, what's happening specifically in Smith County is it affects all of us, right? It affects all of our neighbors right next door to us, right? So it's having those kitchen table conversations, focusing on kitchen table issues rather than, focusing on the big national hot button issues.
Now, there was a big push this year to get a Democrat in every race in Texas, and that was achieved.
We did.
And when we talk about the local races here, you have Democratic nominees running for Congress, Texas House, Texas Senate. When you talk about these people, they do lack name recognition in many cases. They're going up against very popular incumbents. How do you get those candidates in office? How do you win those races?
Yeah, I think it starts with the hard conversations, right? It's putting ourselves in positions where we have not traditionally been. So one thing we did last year under Hector Garza, our previous chair, was actually go to the state fair and paid the money to go to the state fair and start building that name recognition for our candidates that would be on the ballot this coming year, right? But it is making space and holding space at the tables that we are not traditionally sat at.
And Kristen, I do want to ask about that marquee matchup in the midterms, that race for Senate between James Tallarico and Ken Paxton. Tallarico has performed well in many of the polls. He's raised a lot of money in this race, more money than O'Rourke did back in 2018, more than Allred in 2024. But what must still happen for James Tallarico to get him elected in a state that has had Republican representation in the Senate going back 30 years?
Yeah, so I think that James Tallarico's campaign needs to do a very good job of earning the voters' votes on both sides of the aisle, right? So, I mean, when we're talking about the communities that Democrats serve and oftentimes represent, it's the working class, right? It's your, your oil rig workers and your, welders. It is also, your marginalized communities, your communities of color, right? Your Black and Hispanic communities, and then also, our LGBTQ neighbors as well. So I think something that the Democratic Party has done poorly from the national standpoint is that we do not earn our voters' vote. We expect being good enough on paper to be good enough to motivate people to the polls, and that's just not the case. We need to be earned every single time. Every single vote needs to be appealed to, and I think that, making sure that we are showing up in the communities that we're not traditionally in and putting ourselves in situations, making space for ourselves in those situations is how we'll win the Senate.
And Kristen, you're out there talking with people, listening to people. What are you hearing from Democrats in East Texas headed into the midterms? Are they energized?
Yes, I think they are very energized, but things are rough out there, right? For your everyday working East Texan, groceries are more expensive, gas is higher, healthcare costs are skyrocketing, right? People are struggling. They are feeling the strain of those national decisions in our own homes. I have neighbors that are obviously Republican. This is a very red area, right? But the best conversations that I've had with them are in their, in my driveway when my kid's out riding her bike, right? It's having those conversations and talking about those kitchen table issues and making sure that we are finding common ground and finding each other's humanity rather than letting the powers that be separate us.
And you mentioned the other party, Republicans. They're hosting a midterm convention in Dallas. It was originally billed as a convention. They're getting away from that wording now because it will not function as a convention, more like a campaign rally. What do you make of that decision to host something like that in Texas before the election?
I think that Texas is much more blue than Republicans give us credit for. We are not a red state, we are a non-voting state. And now that, we have amazing candidates on the ballot, we had amazing energy going into the primaries. That is the biggest primary turnout that we have had in recent history in the Democratic primary here in East Texas, right? We had 11,000 voters turn out in Smith County alone. So understanding that that kind of energy is happening across the ballot, that kind of energy is happening across the state, that we are having record turnout, we are outvoting Republicans. They're shaking in their boots a little bit, and they should be, because something about East Texas Democrats and leftists, we're scrappy. We've got to be, right? So, yeah, it's very hope-inspiring for me.
And something that's really become a flashpoint topic in recent weeks, recent months, is data centers.
Yes.
Do you think this issue and the stance Democrats in Texas have taken on these data centers, do you think that helps in the midterms?
I do. I think that people getting civically involved is never a bad thing, no matter what you're fighting for. And this is something that I have had conversations on, again, both sides of the aisle, on every bit of the political spectrum about, because we don't understand, right, the impacts environmentally, on quality of living or anything of data centers, right? And so when we had the one proposed up on Irwin, that affects our neighbors. And to see such, bipartisan outrage is beyond inspiring, to know that people are angry and people understand that Republicans have paved the way for big business to come in and affect, our neighbors.
And when it comes to these statewide races, is it your goal to get these candidates in East Texas, in Smith County before the election to actually go in front of voters, hold rallies, campaign events?
Absolutely. So, I coordinate with the Tallarico and Hinojosa campaign. I also coordinate with Yolanda Prince's campaign, who's running for Congress, with Dustin Stevens, who's running for County Commissioner Precinct 2, with all of our candidates up and down the ballot, because it's going to take every last one of them, all of their perspectives, and every voter we can reach and inspire to get them to the polls.
And Kristen, as we wrap up here, give us the 30-second pitch. Why should East Texans vote for Democrats in the midterm election?
They have nothing to lose. right? Our rights are being stripped away. Everything is more expensive. Our quality of life is less. It's hotter than it's ever been before because of climate change. And we have to address those issues starting in our own backyard. We have had Republican control in our government here in Texas for 30 years. What do we have to lose to try something else?
All right, Kristen Harden-Sigler, the new Smith County Democratic Chair.
Yes.
Thanks for making some time to be here. We
Thanks
appreciate
for having
it.
me, Blake.
We'll be back with more East Texas politics on East Texas Now right after this.